Hello again. Today I'm going to be doing a Ultra Kill Brutal Weapons tier list. Uh, I have a lot of opinions, and you guys in the comment sections of my previous most popular Ultra Kill videos have definitely let me know that they may be a little whack, right? Some of you agree, we all exchange points, it's fun out there. We like the broccoli comment section. But today I'm going to make a tier list of all of these weapons. I've tried them out. I've tried playing the whole Brutal campaign with weapons I don't usually use, like this sorry little piece of crap, you know. But all jokes aside, all of these weapons definitely do fit in at least some part of the game. I don't think there's any bad weapons in this game. I think that, you know, at the very least they are niche. We'll get to that when we get there. Some of these weapons I don't have the best experience with, and I'll let you know which ones those might be when we get there. My credibility for this tier list would be that I am currently top 600 on the Brutal Cybergrind leaderboard, so that's sort of how I'm approaching this. Let's start from the top. I mean, for me, I'd say this gun is fairly linear. I mean, you mostly care about its secondary fire, and even in the circumstances where you can line up, like, you know, a headshot or two with its 3-hit pierce, it's still mediocre at best in my opinion. But that's strictly because it is overshadowed by its older brother right here. I mean, this guy's got slab coining, it's got 5 damage on the first hit no matter what, doesn't matter headshot or not. Like, it's extremely consistent, you whip it out, 2.5 damage, boom. It just offers better bang for its buck because this has a 5-second cooldown, but it can immediately dish out 5 damage to whatever you're shooting. Synergizes much better with coins. Its piercing effect is kind of mediocre at best, but that's strictly because the sharpshooter exists, and the kinds of combos you can pull off with the sharpshooter are dramatically better as a piercing weapon than the piercer, which is sad to say, but at least it makes up for it in damage. Its long cooldown is super okay because you're constantly swapping between weapons, so you definitely have, you know, time to squeeze in this shot at 5 seconds between, and, you know, a couple jackhammers, a couple shotgun parries, some rockets, and then conduction combo, right? Like, you have all that going for you just to wait for this 5 damage to pop back. And, you know, all it takes is 1 coin, and that ups to, what, 12 damage? 12 damage and some change, right? Anyway, good gun. Definitely remarkable. Wish I could say more about this one. It just... 2.5 seconds for 2.5 or 5 damage is... Who really cares? You'd rather not linger on the same weapon all too long if it's pumping out damage numbers like that. Next up, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to argue with this. Coins, right? You do 4 damage split into 2 shots if you're good at the game. And even though 4 damage isn't all that good, it really only beats the damage threshold of a stalker. It's still a good gun. I mean, hitting enemies behind walls that can't even see you, you know, that's definitely a spectacular feat with this gun. You got your electric rail cannon combos, you know, rail coining is always good, and coin punching is always fantastic. I mean, adding damage to 1 coin and soloing a Sisyphean Insurrectionist is really fun. This gun also combos really well with the piercer, so you have that going for you too. I mean, really every pistol synergizes with each other in one way or another. Then we have my personal favorite between the 2 coin guns is the Slab Marksman. Now, the reason why I like the Slab Marksman more is because it does 5 damage on a split coin. And it only does it to 1 target, sure, but 5 damage means so much more than 4 damage in this game. 5 damage means killing that schism, means killing that street cleaner, it means killing that radiant soldier or that radiant drone, all those things that are bothering you that you don't have the time to shoot. That on top of the fact that it just gets you more blood, right? I mean, it's 2 hit scans, so it's giving you way more blood if you walk up to an enemy and just bop, right? Like, usually you have the Marksman pistol in your first slot for your pistols, so having that as a good healing option is always great. I think that killing 1 enemy instead of dealing good damage to 2 enemies is always good, because, like, you know, I don't really care about doing 4 damage to 2 tiny fodder enemies like strays or filth, or soldiers. Like it's just kind of a waste of my time when I could really just get a cool conduction combo or explosion with rockets, or core eject jackhammer. There's way more efficient ways to deal with fodder other than coins. So I feel like the 5 damage is just so much better than splitting 4 damage to 2 targets, when really the gap between the 2.5 health of a soldier and the 5 health of a schism is so great that the lower end of a soldier being dealt with by a single M1 instead, and then you have schisms which can be dealt with a coin. It just feels it feels much more efficient to use. Very easy to dish out damage with this weapon. I just wish people would, give this one a rest. It's good, mostly in the campaign. I mean, I'm thinking like I would genuinely put this here. Like 5 damage is just so good to pull off in an instant, without having to look at the damn enemy. I mean that, and it's just coins. Like coins are coins. It belongs up here. Anyway, rants aside, I'm happy to talk with you guys about this in the comment section. So leave all your opinions down there. Up next is the sharpshooter, the default sharpshooter. I've seen some really cool things. I've done some really cool things with this. I think, to compare the two, I think this is actually pretty consistent. I mean, you really only want to use this gun for destroying projectiles, because 7 damage in a giant explosion is a lot of value for just tapping right click and aiming. Like, that is a lot of value. You don't have to waste any of your hard damage, like, trying to whiplash into a rocket, which is the same effect. You deflect all of the projectiles that came from that giant explosion radius. It's just a lot of value. You can one-shot Maurices. It's fantastic. I wish I could say more. It's just, when you have something like the feedbacker or a parry mechanic in the game, destroying a projectile doesn't seem all that great. You do get 3 charges, which is the upside for this, and why I think it's better than the piercer. But aside from that, that's all it has going for it. Then there is the Slarp, or the Slab Sharpshooter. I'm going to put it in Remarkable just because its damage is really good. It can also destroy a projectile, so really if you don't want to linger on a gun for too long, you just shoot one projectile, swap to the next, 8-second cooldown, you can wait that out, it's fine. You're typically not going to use this in your first weapon slot anyway, so it's much more proactive than it is reactive. As well, I've seen some pretty insane combos you can pull off with this gun. Again, it's 2 hit scans, which means that there's hit stun between hitting coins with it. So in the middle of shooting a coin, let's say you punch a coin into an enemy and it's bouncing, it's inside of them or whatever, you shoot down below the enemy, it hits the coin, you can punch the coin while it's being hit, and it'll still go down, and the coin will still bounce off of that enemy and be able to be reused with that additional damage stuck to it. So you can pull off some insane combos if you literally just punch a coin into an enemy, walk up to them with a Slarp, shoot down, and then swap to the Marksman and throw a bunch of coins on top of them. You'll get like 3 or 4 ultra ricochets. It's crazy the kinds of damage you can do with this. You can solo mind flares and swords machines, and like if they're all grouped up on top of each other, especially because swords machines love to group up because they're all following you on the same linear path, you can do so much damage with this thing. Only problem is that it does take a lot of work to get to that point. It's a huge commitment with all your coins. But aside from that, it's still a really good gun. I mean, I've seen like 65 damage combos with this thing. I'm nowhere near able to pull that off. I can do 30 damage at best, but yeah, I definitely recommend looking into that. This gun has a lot of untapped potential, even after the nerfs that everyone cried about, Anyway, remarkable gun, definitely for sure. Core eject shotgun. I don't like this gun. It's really only used for core nukes, and maybe launching it and getting like shooting the core with your pistol. Like, it's whatever. The primary is just way too regular. It doesn't synergize with the secondary at all, unlike the other 2 shotguns. I don't know. 3.5 damage on one little core is nothing compared to just parrying your bullets, you know? I don't know. It does what it does well. It gives you the nukes, you know, it gives you the core eject to shoot with your pistol. It's 7 damage, it's fine. I just think there's way better options. You know, I'm actually willing to put it down here. Like, the best combo of shotgun to alt shotgun ratio, or the best ratio between shotgun to alt shotgun, is somewhere between 1 jackhammer, 2 shotguns, or 2 jackhammers, 1 shotgun, right? I mean, I'm a triple jackhammer enthusiast, so I might be biased when I rate these jackhammers, but you typically don't see this because, I mean, like, let's be honest, you have a mini red rail cannon when you use this weapon. Like, this is just so much better in every way. It's 7 damage on impact and a 5 damage explosion. It's just a red rail cannon that you can get every second. As well, you can just toss the core above your head and just shoot it with the red rail cannon, and during the hit stop you can dash through the explosion like it's nothing. I mean, you kill everything that was around you, and it feels so much more efficient to use because then you also have 10 damage on hand immediately, like, you know, with just a whiplash cancel with the red jack. So I just feel this is so much better than its counterpart in every way possible. Range nuking is kind of redundant when you can just dash through the explosion, and if you're dashing through the explosion, at that point you have a giant area that enemies are not able to kill you in. Projectiles get blasted away, all of the fodder is dead around you, you know, it's like 10 damage or what, like in an area around you, so you're just safe for a good second and a half after you use it. Overall, I think all the jackhammers are great. 10 damage or 6 damage on command is just like, it's insane to me. You can deal with so many problem enemies with mid-range health between 10 to 30. It's fantastic. Anyway, on to the pump charge. This gun, definitely remarkable. Like, probably my favorite shotgun. Probably a lot of people's favorite shotgun. 2.5 damage is so solid with how fast it fires. Especially with shotgun pairing and shotgun zones, it fires so fast that you can afford to miss a couple times if you want, but that's not even the point of this gun. I mean, really what you're using this gun for is full pumping it and then getting that sweet 10 damage with a dash, so you avoid the 50 damage that you would take. It's super strong. I mean, it pumps extremely fast compared to the green jack, which is fantastic, but then again, they both have completely different niche uses. I would still put this one in remarkable because being able to deal 12 damage a second by adding a knuckle blaster is just so good. I mean, you're doing a 3.5 damage explosion, you have the 2.5 damage of the knuckle blaster and the 6 damage of the yellow jack. However you want to get that, you can dash, you can whiplash, you can slide. So many ways to hit yellow jack, and you can refresh it over and over again. It's 1 second, boom, boom, boom. You can just dish out damage so fast with this thing. And again, like, bringing it back to the pump charge shotgun, 10 damage in an explosion is so powerful. That's more damage than the malicious rail cannon. It's like a small nuke, of course, you know, but it doesn't have that 16-second cooldown that all rail cannons have. It's really effective, really good with shotgun parrying because of how fast it fires. I also know that you can pull off chainsaw combos with it. I think the combo is chainsaw, shotgun parry, rocket, and then by the time the chainsaw comes back, you shotgun parry again, and the chainsaw will be sent back out again. Because of the rocket, you're also cycling your feedbacker cooldown on and off and on and off, so you can just consistently pump out, I think it's like, what, a 16 damage combo? Maybe more? Because the chainsaw does 4.5, and you have 1, 2, 3 explosions and a rate. Like, it's great. It's really good damage. Honestly, the only thing stopping me from putting it in irreplaceable tier is some of the other bogus weapons, like, you know, we'll get there when we get there. This weapon, the sawed-on shotgun, is good. I just think that the jackhammer is better because the saw blade, let's be honest, it's not that great. I mean, sorry, hold on. The sawed-on shotgun is not as good as the alt shotgun in my opinion. And again, you're going to notice a trend. I'm ranking these way higher than I am the shotguns. Um, it just seems to me like if you want to detach the shotgun, you got that knuckle blaster, you got that jackhammer, you're in melee range anyway. It's just free, easy damage. You can put this in your primary. The one weakness of the jackhammer is it doesn't heal you that much, but like you can easily like just get in someone's face, heal to full, and deal like a good 15 damage, or like maybe even more. It's a lot. It's the essence of the game to be able to move fast and get out quickly. The hit and run aspect of a jackhammer is so integral for the cycle of the Cybergrind, and we'll get into why that is also more important with some of the other weapons in this list. We'll get there later, but hit and run is so powerful for dealing with all those threats like sentries and virtues that can kill you from across the entire map. It's fantastic. One last thing about the Sawon shotgun, I know that you can do cool things like use both of the other jackhammers and use this as your sole shotgun. I've seen that be used, and I've seen it be very powerful because I've seen chainsaw release into shotgun parry, which is always good. Like just like the combo with the pump charge shotgun, you can release the chainsaw, parry it or knuckle blast it, whichever one you want. But if you're parrying it, you can also mix in rockets, and then you can shotgun parry again. I mean, you can projectile boost again. Oh god, I've been saying shotgun parry this whole time. You can projectile boost with the rocket combo, obviously, so you're just cycling explosions in and out and in and out, and simultaneously you're punching the chainsaw, which is always good damage. So I've seen it be used in really good ways. It feels like it belongs in the same tier as the sharpshooter for me, for those reasons. It just, the few uses that it has, that it synergizes with its primary, just doesn't seem valuable when you have other shotguns or other alt shotgun variants that are just, I don't know, they fit a better niche for the secondary that they have. Now we're on to the nail guns and the saw blade launchers. So the nail gun here, I think, is just okay. I think it's decent because it has extremely good accuracy. So you can shoot this thing down from long range and deal, you know, very consistent high amounts of damage. Very good at killing Maurices. The magnets are are where it's at. I mean, nail traps are good and all, but you're really setting up nails for your electric rail cannon or your jumpstart. Otherwise, they're kind of mediocre at best, unless they're synergizing with the secondary in some way, like the jumpstart and like the overheat, right? So, first things first, this one, easy, like S tier, S plus tier, whatever you want to call it. It's one of the best games, one of the best weapons in the game. It's easily such a broken weapon. Being able to deal 1.25 damage per saw every time it hits the same enemy. I mean, I think with 10 blades alone, you can kill a whole insurrectionist. Like, one weapon doing that is absolutely insane. It's definitely better than the attractor nail gun in, like, every way possible. Its lingering damage is just so much more significant than anything the nail gun could dream of. I don't think I have to say much more than that. Its saw traps are just disgusting. There's so many layouts that on the Cybergrind that saw traps synergize with, so many flat areas that enemies quickly draw into, so many corners of the map that you can draw enemies into and like feed explosions into as well. It's just like such good lingering damage that you can combo with other damage. Overheat. I actually really like the overheat. It's really good at getting out nails quick. It synergizes very well with the jumpstart in that way, because all you really care about is lathering enemies in nails, right? Like you obviously have your rockets, which conduct things. You obviously have your coins, which conduct things. Those are all good, but this weapon is just, it dishes out nails faster than anything. It also burns. Really good insurrectionist killer, actually, because I mean, obviously fire damage is so good against insurrectionist, but also the fact that it's applying so many nails so quickly means that you can swap to the jumpstart immediately and get its value fast before the insurrectionist leaps into the air and breaks the cord or something like that. Also really good with the electric rail cannon. I mean, you bust this baby out for like 1 second and then you burn the electric rail cannon and it just it does so much damage. Now comparing that to the overheat saw blade, it's good, but for different reasons. You wouldn't use this for the jumpstart, because this saw blade for some reason doesn't. Correct me if I'm wrong, but at least in my experience, I haven't felt like it has boosted the jumpstart time at all. So it's really just a lot of damage in one saw blade. You can pull this out, like, unlike the attractor saw blade, you pull it out and it just, boom, you throw it out and it's out there now and it's doing a lot of damage for a very long time. It's fire damage, which is always good. But other than that, once you throw it out, you just kind of forget about it. You don't really have anything that synergizes with it. It's just good because it does good damage, Like, for similar reasons, like, to the Piercer. Like, the Piercer's just good because it does good damage, and, like, really quickly. But that's enough to get it into Remarkable. Like, this thing can solo a lot of mid-range health things by just dancing around it and having those mid-range health enemies chase you. Like Ferryman, like Swords Machine. Finally, the Jumpstart Nailgun. I've seen really good things with this. With the Nailgun variant, obviously it has a faster fire rate, which is good, but I actually don't like it that much because while you do get a fire rate bonus while attached to an enemy, you really don't care about it because you're just trying to swap to your other weapons, which do more damage. Nails aren't that effective unless you're dealing with an enemy that's weak to them. Like, the overheat is so much better against all husks, like every husk, because they take bonus damage from fire. And then the attractor just obviously has its magnets, so you need time to place those in all its correct places, to get your conduction combo, to get your saws in all the correct places. You really care about getting nails out quickly, like with the overheat, instead of just looking around trying to pepper enemies with nails. You're not trying to use this to kill enemies because its damage threshold is just so low and inconsistent. I mean, it's accurate, but you'd rather just one-shot an enemy with a coin of a slab, or like, with an explosion that sets them on fire, or like, with an aerial rocket combo. Like, there's just way better options. It's good though, like if you want to use it the way it's intended to be used, it's good. I just think this is better. Getting additional saws when you've run out of saw blades is so good. These saw blades do 0.5 damage if I'm not mistaken, but they're still really strong. I mean, saws will always be good, like pumping out 1.5, 1.5, 1.5, 1.5, because I think it's 3 hits or 3 bounces till it's destroyed. It's phenomenal. I mean, it accelerates the speed of the jumpstart charge, so you get that shock much earlier. It's 10 damage, that jumpstart charge, so you want that as fast as you can get it. Really good tank slayer to use this alone, and I feel like it just gives you more saws, because saws are just so strong. They have so much I mean, I could gush about them forever, but I think it just is better than the nailgun jumpstart for those reasons. The electric rail cannon, yeah, I don't think anyone's going to argue. This is just extremely good. Like, this thing is a virtue killer. Virtues are extremely annoying, so getting a sweet lineup on, 2 or 3 virtues with this is super powerful. Peppering a bunch of enemies with the overheat nail gun, throwing a coin into someone, shooting it with the rail cannon, coin, 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 and the enemy's just dead. It's just dead, right? Like, with conduction, with the rail coining, it's so much damage. Ultimately, this weapon will always be good because 8 damage pierce is just disgusting. Enemies love to step on top of each other, so you're always going to get value from this if you're just walking away from them and looking behind you. It's just such good damage. It's definitely better than the other 2 rail cannons in my opinion. Screwdriver, it's niche. There's just so many better healing tools out there. I mean, you can get maybe 1, or if you're really lucky, 2 feedback your parries into other enemies and have it last a little longer, but even still, that's so much maintenance when you should just be in the air or riding rockets, or lathering the enemy in the end of the stage in fire, creating a conduction combo, killing all those enemies like Maurices and Virtues and Sentries that need to be taken care of immediately, or else they'll vaporize you. You have so many better targets that need to be dealt with that this rail cannon can't deal with on a 16-second cooldown. It's just so weak. I mean, the healing is fine, but just take out the chainsaw and look at an enemy in front of you. That's so much easier to handle, and it's so much more damage in the instance that you need it. Yeah, I wish this weapon was better, honestly. It has to be the worst one in the game for those reasons. Like, even just look at the Malicious. Malicious definitely is remarkable. Like, a giant radius of an explosion, even though it doesn't heal you for as much, it clears out so much fodder, which, can be argued can be a bad thing because you need fodder to heal quickly if a stage is just filled with radiant enemies. But even on its downsides, it's doing so much damage to taller mid-range enemies. It's like instantly killing virtues next to you, doing a lot of damage to sentries, uprooting sentries especially, deflecting all these projectiles. It's so good for all of these reasons because you can just create a giant cone of invulnerability for a good second and a half. It's so strong. That compared to letting yourself take enough damage to think that the screwdriver is viable to use in a situation like that is just, it's underwhelming. This weapon is underwhelming. The Malicious just wins it over in any day, and the electric rail cannon is just the esteemed overall king of rail cannons and king of combos. I don't have to argue why that's the case. Speaking of kings, this right here has to be my favorite weapon of all time. I hated this gun when I picked it up, and how stupid was I to think that the things this weapon can do could have possibly been underwhelming. Rocket riding, if you can learn the text, right? Obviously you look down, shoot a rocket, whiplash it, it's on your feet, or you just dash, freeze, and then it's on your feet, right? Like, this weapon lets you do such crazy things. It lets you exit the Cybergrind by going underneath or next to the stage where enemies can't see you, and then re-enter the stage like that. You can do it in an instant, and it is so powerful for those reasons. I mean, you can just hop on a rocket, move at 65 units per second in any direction you want, and be almost invulnerable for like a good 4 seconds of riding your rocket. It is inexcusably one of the most disgusting movement text you can do in this game. It has saved me so many of my Cybergrind runs. The damage on it is obviously extremely good as well. Freezing rockets for conduction combos is so strong. And then, putting a magnet on an enemy with several frozen rockets around, and then, unfreezing those rockets, they're doing 7 damage per explosion. It's so strong. I mean, obviously using this in between projectile boosting combos, so strong as well. You can put this in between anything, really. You can saw blade, rocket, saw blade, and, the rocket's on like a 1-second cooldown, but it's like a quarter of a second to swap to this weapon. I mean, it's almost identical to a rail cannon in that way, where you can swap and immediately use it. 3.5 damage anytime you want between whatever combo you're doing is just so good. Not to mention the fact that rocket launchers, right? Any aerial enemy will do a red explosion, 7 damage in a wider radius. So strong when comboed with the Whiplash. You pick up any fodder enemy, most radiant enemies as well, pick them up, shoot them with this thing, giant explosion anywhere that they were standing and by any enemies that were near them. It's such a good clear. For mid-range to fodder enemies, it's so powerful. Definitely my favorite gun in the game. Can't undersell this at all. I would be tempted to put this above coins, honestly. Just movement alone is the most undersold thing in this game. Obviously you have your slam storage, but like that is so hard to pull off in a giant arena filled with 6 radiant Maurices, 4 radiant guttermen, 5 radiant gutter tanks, 3 radiant mind flayers, 2 radiant insurrectionists. Like, that's nothing compared to what you can do with this thing. Anyway, I'm gonna stop sucking this thing off. Let's move on to something a little less interesting. This gun is just straight linear. You only use it for the cannonball. I mean, I would say it's actually, my brain is telling me that this gun is linear, but this does deserve a spacing consistent with the new change that was made to it. Now you can fire a rocket, and during the rocket's cooldown, where the gun is reloading itself, you can release a cannonball the frame after. And cannonballs can be punched into other enemies, which is really good, obviously. So realistically, when you whip this thing out, with enough practice, because people haven't gotten used to that yet, it's very few people's favorite weapon. But getting used to this thing, if this isn't your first slot, firing one rocket and then shooting a cannonball and parrying it, that's a 3.5 damage explosion and a 5 damage cannonball on whatever you hit. It's pretty good in theory. I mean, doing 8.5 damage to one enemy in such a quick instance is definitely something you can't scoff at. I just wish I had more reason to use this over weapons like the freeze frame. But overall, I'm sure if I got into it and I took away like some of the guns that I really liked, I would get into this and I'd find it fun and it would do good damage. It's good service. I mean, a quarter of a second whip out, 3.55 damage sounds in theory like it's really good. The 8-second cooldown, however, feels bad, but I'm sure we can make do with something like this. It's still good damage, and that's all it's good for, but at least it's not trying to be anything else, you know. Shooting the cannonball can be decent as well. I never found much value in doing that when, you know, I'd rather just use any other explosive in the game, but it's whatever. You do what you want. It's still 3.5 damage on an explosion in a pretty wide radius too. Finally, for guns, we have the Firestarter rocket launcher. Now, I thought this gun sucked. I thought this gun was shit. But I have a friend who plays this game a lot. He used this in his first rocket slot, and he showed me how much I was missing out on. This guy was a pyromancer. Like, it was projectile boosting all over the place, using the malicious rail cannon, using core combos. Like, he was using this between his projectile boosts, and he was laying fire all over the map. Like, this guy had the crowd control aspect of quick swapping down to a science. And watching his gameplay, I was like, man, I'm really missing out. This thing is doing so much damage to any enemy that walks into it. And like, again, one of the best things you can do in this game, in the Cybergrind, is lead a bunch of enemies up to you in a corner of the map and, you know, rocket ride or whiplash and maintain an aerial presence while they're all grouped up in that one spot. Putting a little bit of fire down is almost as much damage as just throwing several saws down, except you really only need a little bit of fire. You know what I mean? Like, if you just lather 0.5 seconds worth of fire in a little corner of the arena and shoot it with a rocket, hide behind a wall until all of the enemies are towards you, those enemies are going to be receiving one damage tick so frequently. It's almost comparable. The way I see it, it's almost comparable to the Attractor Saw Blade Launcher. Now, combining both of those things is so much more powerful than having one or the other as well. Like, you're doing so much crowd control damage for so little effort. It's a fantastic weapon. Obviously, you know, you can gasoline soldiers and gasoline Maurices to remove their explosion immunity. That's fine and all, but I mean, really you're only using this on insurrectionists, crowd control similar to the Attractor, and yeah, I mean, on its own, it's just such a force to be reckoned with. Now, we're going on to the fists, and it's hard to say anything that hasn't already been said. I mean, we'll do that. We'll do that. And I think we'll do this. I'll talk about the Knuckle Blaster first, because these two have obviously been talked about way too much. Knuckle Blaster, it's just a good 2.5 damage to mix in with combos. Especially with the Jackhammer, I love it a lot. It really helps at beating those damage thresholds to kill specific enemies in such an efficient manner. The Knuckle Blast itself, the blast that pushes enemies and projectiles away, is pretty decent as well. When you have a bunch of mind flayers that are chasing you around, just, you know, punching one and then popping the blast is really strong just to push all those blue projectiles away. When you don't have the time to parry, or when you need to focus on getting damage out, because you're going to be getting a lot of collateral damage if you're just parrying the blue projectiles. They'll be on top of you the whole time. So it's really good against mind flayers, really good against sentries. It has its counters. It's just good. It's just overall good, especially since you can use this with all of these weapons while they're in your right hand. Use this in your left hand, just get a free 2.5 damage, and that free 0.5 with the Knuckle Blast explosion. It's just good damage. Not much else to say aside from that. Now, moving on to the feedbacker, like, it reminds me, this moment here reminds me of when Hikita was asked if they would introduce a shield as the yellow arm. It still hurts me that some people don't understand how disgustingly powerful it is to have one weapon that is in your left hand and not your right hand. You can still use all your 24 right hand weapons however you want. You have your left hand weapon. Can parry any projectile in the game, even your own. It can, and every time you parry an enemy projectile or you do a melee parry, it refills your health to full up to your hard damage limit, and it replenishes your stamina immediately. It's just pure essence of the game itself. This is your #1 defense tool and your #1 offense tool and your #1 support tool all at the same time. I mean, realistically, I would put this above coins, but you know, I'm not going to list these things in any particular order. I just don't care to do it. But it's just, I don't know what has to be said that hasn't already been said. It's disgusting. And if you disagree, I need to see exactly how, because it's going to take it down. You're going to need to take me down to a science and a eureka for this to be anything worse than irreplaceable. Now, onto the Whiplash. Easily one of the best movement tools in the game. It gives you hard damage, which is its only weakness, but as long as you're in the S ranks or you have ULTRAKILL in style, you will be flying through the whole map without repercussions, doing so much damage because, you know, proximity to enemies is really the best way to do damage with half the weapons in this game anyway. Yeah, it's disgusting, and put some hook points into a map and it easily turns it into a jungle gym, a playground. You know, you're bouncing all over the place. You're collecting fodder from different corners of the map so that you can punch them with the knuckle blaster and get a full heal. It's just insane. I mean, and especially with the Jackhammer, which I love so dearly. Pulling out the Jackhammer and being able to whiplash into a yellow jack or whiplash into a red jack for 10 damage with the secondary primed on it. You're doing 3 to 4 things at once. Like, you're adjusting your trajectory of where you're going after you're blasted back. You're whiplashing when you need to interrupt your momentum. It's just it's insane. Doesn't need to be. I don't really need to say much else aside from that. It synergizes with all my favorite weapons. It's just really good for everything in the game. Anyway, that is my tier list for all of the ULTRAKILL weapons. If you disagree, again, I will be in the comment section. I really want to hear everything you have to say. Super curious. I know some of you guys like these weapons better than others. I know there's going to be a lot of people upset with where I placed the shotguns, especially. And I think there's going to be a lot of people surprised with where I placed the rocket launchers, because I think these things are undersold. Aside from that, yeah, that concludes this video. Now, I'm going to flash the subscribe screen that I've been putting on all of my ULTRAKILL videos for a while now. Please don't get jump scared. It's going to be there. The subscribe screen cannot hurt you. I hope you guys all have a good night, good day, whenever the hell this gets released after it's edited. I'll see you in the comments section.